Welcome to another, and I want to say amazing episode of Write and Shine, Shining Through Your Words author series. I'm just absolutely delighted to have my next guest here with me, all the way from the UK. And the theme, the books, I'm just absolutely so inspired, so moved by the incredible people that is visiting me here in South Africa. Please, Michael, will you introduce yourself and also tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Thank you so much, Magri, for having me on as a guest. And I'm really appreciative. My name's Michael Watson. I'm a qualified social worker of more than 30 plus years experience of working with children and families in the court and the court arena. What I do, I'm an expert at giving evidence at court. And that's the book I've written is Family Court, Giving Evidence in Family Court. And I think I would say I got into this because many years ago, when I was first became a social worker, I was involved in a case. It was a very difficult case. Um, there was a 3-year-old little girl, and I very soon realised when I was working with this three-year-old little girl and her family that I didn't like going to see the family. I did not like going to see them. That was had nothing to do with the little girl. It was to do with the family. Her mum and dad were people who didn't like me. In fact, I would go as far as to say they detested me, and they showed me that every time I saw them. They never spoke to me. They never smiled. They were never pleasant in any way. And I was young, and I kind of wanted to be liked. I didn't like being, you know, treated as if I was some kind of something that was so awful that people couldn't speak to me. They didn't like me being around. But that's just part of the job, and you have to realize that when you're doing the job. But I was too young and inexperienced to realize that at the time. Anyhow, one day I was, it was a bright summer day, and I love bright summer's day. And believe it or not, we still do have one or two in the UK, not many, but every now and again we have a nice warm summer's day. And on this particular day, it was a nice day, but I didn't feel the way I normally feel. I felt a bit weighed down. I felt uneasy. I felt uncomfortable. And I realized it was all to do with because I knew I had something hanging over me. I had to go and see this family on this particular day. And so I sort of said, okay, I had to go. So I made my way to the family home. They were in a high rise block of flats, so I had to go up, and I went up in the lift or the elevator. I got outside, and I steeled myself. I tried to put something around me to avoid dealing, so I could emotionally be all right, or not emotional, not feel that I was emotionally being pulled to pieces in there. Knocked on the door. They came, opened the door, and went back into the back into the flat. And I stepped through. As I stepped through their threshold, it was just like stepping into a different world. Outside, there was sunshine.
Yeah.
Going into this flat, it was like I stepping into a world like I don't know if I don't know if you remember, and I don't know if your audience remembers it, and it may be too old, maybe too long ago. Is that it was a horror film called The Twilight Zone,
Oh, yes,
and
I do.
yeah, and it was like stepping into this Twilight Zone
Wow.
because this place was like it was cold. It wasn't just cold temperature; it was cold in terms of the atmosphere there. It was unpleasant. It was unforgiving. Everything about it was just kind of you can imagine your ears and your back standing up. It was just unpleasant. There was something about it. The decor in the room was it was poorly furnished and poor, and the decor there was tears on the wallpaper, and the carpets were ripped up kind of thing, and you could see the floorboards, and the place just had a uncared for feel about it. It didn't smell terribly bad. It didn't stink, but it was there was an odor. That was unpleasant. Yeah. The parents never looked at me. Well, the father never looked at me at all. I never call him look at me in the eye. I never saw that at all. The mother would look at me, but she had a perpetual snarl on her face. It was just like she was like an animal. She always looked like she was about to attack. The only person who showed me any degree of welcome was this little girl, this 3-year-old little girl that I was working with. And she was always in her playpen. Her playpen was, you know, it's just a small playpen. Why she was always in a playpen, I don't know, because she was 3 and she could walk. But an interesting, I never saw any toys in there. I never saw her playing. She was always just holding onto the rails, like she was in a prison.
Yeah.
The wooden bars were like metal bars that you would see in a prison. She was always holding onto them, and her face was like it was. She was always wearing her clothes were always grubby. Her hair looked like it needed washed to be washed and combed. Her face, you could always see the stains of the tears that trickled down her cheek, and it was mingling now with the snot on her nose. And it was just her face needed cleaning and wiping.
Yes.
She always had that same expression, but I couldn't read the expression. I couldn't read what that expression meant. It was not as if you saw someone, you'd seen them a few times and they had a different expression, and this time they had this particular expression. No, she always had the same expression. So I just couldn't quite read it. And her eyes were always fixed on me. That's one thing I always remember. Her eyes were always on me. They're trained on me, not on her mum, not on her dad, not on anyone else or anything else around the flat, just on me. That never made sense to me.
Mm.
And it never made sense to me because children invariably look at their parents. They're always watching their parents.
Yes.
They're always watching their eyes, even if they can't walk, although this little girl could walk, although she was in a playpen, her eyes would normally be looking at one of her parents. But they never were. They were always on me. And that never made sense to me. Anyway, one day I received a phone call bright and early from my manager. She said, Michael, can you come into work as soon as possible, please? There's been a tragedy on one of your cases. I thought, okay, yeah, I'm coming in. I thought, tragedy on one of my cases. What did that mean? And I suppose I just thought, well, maybe someone's had a tumble or something's happened, that isn't particularly nice, but it can be sorted out. So I got into work and my manager said to me, Michael, do you want to sit down? I said, no, I don't want to sit. Can you just tell me what it is, please? Because at this time I was getting a bit anxious. So she did. She did tell me what happened. And when she did, well, what she said basically turned my life upside down. Um, there were words that meant that my life was never going to be the same. She said the little girl had been killed brutally by her father. And what that meant was that I would have to, there were just a whole range of things, processes I would have to go through. But one of the processes that was most worrying to me was that I was going to have to go to court. I'd never been to court before. And I was going to have to go to court to explain exactly what I'd done to protect her, what I hadn't done to protect her, explain everything on the case, what had gone on in the time that I'd been involved with the family. What I was also aware of, I knew it wasn't not because I'd never been to court, but I could just tell by the way people were talking that it was something to be wary of.
Yeah.
I was also aware that people had kind of distanced themselves from me. And in hindsight, I recognized why people distance themselves from me, because as a social worker, the last and worst experience you'd ever want is to be a social worker of a child that's been killed.
Yeah.
That's the worst experience possible that you can have as a social worker, other than being killed yourself or, seeing someone you love being killed. It's one of the worst things that can happen. So I can, in hindsight, I can understand where people were at the time. No one wanted to be tainted with this brush, with the same brush as me. Anyway, I had to go to court, and the court was called the Royal Courts of Justice, which is a big court in the Strand in London. And you can picture it. It's big, like a big cathedral, a big stone cathedral, a massive building. But it's a stone building. When you get in through the gates, you go through an electric detector, which kind of a security system that makes sure that you're not carrying anything, and they pad you down, touch you to make sure that you're not carrying anything any weapon or anything that you shouldn't be carrying into the court. And one of the first things that hits you when you get through the court system, the security system, is just how cold it is. It's physically cold. The temperature's cold because it's a big stone building, massive building, and it's cold. But that's not the only bit. It's cold also in terms of the atmosphere. Courts are not pleasant places. I don't know if you've ever been to court. I don't. It's not. They're not warm, lovey-dovey,
Not at
warm,
all.
places. Yeah, they are places of conflict. Yeah,
Yes.
that's where they are. So that's the other thing that hits you. It's unpleasant. I was also worried because I thought there might be cameras outside. There might be, cameras because of the death of a child. There might be photographers and the media outside, and I just didn't. Oh, I just didn't want to be, in the middle of that, or to be for anyone to be taking photographs of me or anything that would be on the national press or anything like that. So that's something else that I was worried about. Anyhow, I found my way to the actual court because there were many different courts in the courthouse, in that court building. So yeah, I found my way to the actual court, and eventually I was placed in the witness box. Now, when I was placed in the witness box, I don't know if you've ever had that experience. You've been placed somewhere, you're told to stay there, but you don't want to be there.
Oh, yes.
You want to be anywhere else. I mean, anywhere else, but you have to be there because the judge has told you you've got to be there, and you got to stay there till the judge releases you. You know? And you want to flee anywhere, you want to fly anywhere, but you can't. You've got to stay right there, and it's not a big place. You've got to stay in the confines of the witness box. So while I'm in that witness box, not wanting to be there, I'm being asked questions. I'm being asked questions by this barrister, and the questions they're asking are very unpleasant questions. They're questions which make it out that you're responsible for the child's death. That you did, they're just short. It's just short of saying that you killed her yourself. It's that kind of those. That's the kind of way they're talking to you. Um, and the thing is, I'm traumatized. I'm traumatized by death. I'm traumatized by this experience. I'm depressed also by it. My marriage at the time was on the rocks. So I'm going through that as well. I'm on my own. I don't know the system. I don't know how to deal with it. I'm young. I'm inexperienced. So I'm in the witness box and I don't want to be there at all. I want to be anywhere else, but I can't get away. That's where I'm meant to be. I have to be there until the judge releases me. And whilst I'm in this witness box, the barristers are cross-examining me. They're asking questions of me, and they're doing it in a particularly unpleasant way, making it out that I'm responsible for the death of this child. It's my fault. All of it's my fault, and I just don't know how to answer these questions. I'm not skilled. I'm not experienced. I don't know how to respond in an appropriate way. So I can't defend myself in any way. And I can't deflect the questions. And the questions are coming straight at me because I'm a sitting duck, you know. And these questions are like darts being thrown out, and each question is coming like a dart and it's hitting me. So it's not physically hurting me, but emotionally and psychologically, it's causing me incredible pain. And at one point, I'm in a daze. I'm literally in a daze. I just don't know how to. At one point, I look around the room like that. I'm just looking around. There's got to be someone here who's got to be able to help me. There's got to be someone here who could protect me from this. There's got to be someone who cares. This isn't right. That's what's going through my mind. I'm thinking, this isn't right. This is just a form of torture. Um, Someone here must have a heart. Someone here must care. I'm looking for someone to, save me. But as I look around this room, all I see is stone hard faces. There's no warmth there. There's no care there. There's nothing but cold scrutiny. That's all that's going on there. And as it dawns on me that there's no one coming to rescue me, there's no superhero that's going to come and rescue me or do anything. As that dawns on me, as that realization dawns on me, I think of the little girl. I think of her in her little playpen, just as I'm now in this little witness box, trapped like she was. I see her there and I recognize a number of things. I recognize that she was looking at me because she wanted to be saved. She wanted someone to save her. I was her one hope of being saved. She wasn't looking at her mum. She wasn't looking at her dad because she knew from painful experience what they were doing to her. So there was no point from her to look at her parents because she knew what they were going to do. She was looking at me because I was her one hope. Only the problem was I didn't understand what she was going through and I couldn't interpret what she was going through. And sometimes, as what we do when we're inexperienced in life and as a professional, is we see people as we see ourselves. I couldn't see myself doing that to any child let alone child that loved and needed me, any child anyhow. So I couldn't envisage them doing that to her. I just couldn't. It didn't equate with me. So while she was looking for someone to protect her, I failed her because I couldn't read what she was trying to say to me. I couldn't interpret her expressions. Now, I'm not in any way, I want to be clear on this. I can't sit here, wouldn't sit here and say what she went through was a million times worse than what I went through. But I can tell you without a word of a lie that what I went through, having said that what she went through was a million times worse than what I went through, I wouldn't wish what I went through on my worst enemy. And that is how bad it was. Anyway, I was there for, I don't know how long I was there for, because when you're in pain, a minute can be a lifetime. And I was in a lot of pain. So I don't know, I was there maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours. Eventually, and I couldn't answer the questions. Eventually, judge must have got fed up of me and told me to go. Um, and I fled. I just wanted to get away, so as far away from the court and as far away as from social work and having to give evidence as I could. But there was something inside of me that said, "No, Michael, you're not going to do that. You want to do that, but you're not going to do that. You are going to make sure that that never, ever, ever happens to you again. You are going to make doubly, trebly sure that it never happens because no one is ever going to do that to me ever again. I don't care who it is. I don't care what the situation is. They're not going to do that to me again." And so I went back to court time and time again until I got really good at giving evidence, until I could help other people, until I could write a book about giving evidence.
Wow.
And what I want to say is that it didn't take me 30 years or 30 plus years to get good at giving evidence. It took me a matter of months. But it took me more than 30 years to feel comfortable or
Yes.
reasonably comfortable sharing this experience because that's how bad it was. Now, you see, my attitude had changed. My attitude was no longer that people were going to help me. They
Yes.
weren't going to help. I was going to help me. You know? I couldn't save, and I can't save that little girl. I wish I could. Sorry.
No, it's so sad.
I can't save that little girl, but I can save a lot of other people from going through the same things that I went through. And that's why I do what I do. Yeah.
I love it.
Now, when you go to court, to give yourself the best chance of getting the result you want, to nail the result you want, I've got a 4-step process. And that four-step process is called calm. CALM.
Love it.
Calm, because you've got to be calm when you go to court. You've got to be calm and you can control yourself, says he when he's emotionally welled up. But
But it's good. I believe in, this is why we do this episodes. It's the heart behind your book. So we feel really honored that you share it with us.
well, I'll just take a breath because I've got to be calm. You've got to be calm when you're giving evidence.
And I do want to add, I'm extremely passionate about trauma healing. I actually wrote a book this year about trauma healing, and the book's name is Found in the Aftermath, and I based it on a physical war. When you go through extreme trauma like this, and you went through war,
Yeah,
emotionally, and that's what I say. It's so brutal, and it's so hard for those around you even that doesn't really understand when you are going through that war. And that's why I honor your story so much of, realizing, and that's something I had to realize in a very difficult way as well. No one is going to save me. No one is going to help me. The only person who can make my pain into purpose is myself. And that's why I'm so passionate about, meeting authors like yourself, because you became a warrior through the war that you went through. And no one could prepare you for that. Nothing could prepare you for that.
yeah,
Nothing.
that's true. It is true. It's true. So I remember where I'm at now. Anyhow, yeah.
Um,
So calm. You have to be calm when you're giving evidence, and you have to be in control of your emotions um, to give to be able to give good evidence. And always bear in mind you're being observed and being watched and scrutinised when you're caught by the judge and by the barristers. So first step in that system is C, calm. Second step in the system is A. A stands for attitude. You have to have a great attitude when you're giving evidence. You might be not worried, you might be anxious, you might be scared, you might be frightened, but you know what? Your body language, facial expressions, body language has to present calm and having a great attitude. You have to show that if you're going to give good evidence. Remember, the judge is watching you all the time. They're weighing you up all the time. Barristers are weighing you up. If you
yes.
don't have a great attitude, it's going to be seen, right? It's you can see it a mile off when people don't have great attitudes. Anyhow, you can smell bad attitudes. That's how
True.
you know blatantly obvious they are. And these people, these judges and barristers, they're very good at picking up your body language. So if you don't have a great attitude and you don't know how to control your body language, your facial expressions, etc., you are signaling them to barristers are going to be rubbing their hands with glee because then you're making their life 10 times much more easy. You don't want to do that when you go to court. So you have to exhibit and learn to exhibit a great attitude and give off a great attitude throughout. That is the second step in the system. Third step begins with letter L. You have to be able to listen. Listen effectively, listen attentively, listen reflexively. It occurs to me when I think of that little girl that I wasn't able to listen to her. Not with my ears because she wasn't talking, but listen fully with my heart and pick up exactly where she was at. Pick up what her facial expressions were telling me. She was trying to communicate with me. I couldn't get it. I should have been able, had I been mindful enough, had I been aware enough to pick up my own feelings and pick up her feelings. My feelings were like horror. I did not like where I was. I did not like going there. I did not like being around them. They made me feel very, very, very uncomfortable. I should have figured, if I feel this way, how did it make this little girl feel? Living with parents who were with her 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Yeah. I should have been able to put those two together, but I wasn't, because I wasn't experienced enough. I didn't have the knowledge and the skills to do it. But had I been able to, reflectively listen and attentively listen, I would have been able to pick that up. Yeah. And this little girl might still be alive. But I wasn't. The other thing is that when you're at court, when you're in the witness box, you have to listen to what the judges are asking of you and what the judge is telling you to do. And you have to listen to what the barristers are asking you under cross-examination. So if you don't listen, you're not going to be able to answer that question effectively. And if you don't answer the question effectively, you cannot get the result you want at court, because you're not giving great evidence. So listening is another key skill that has to be mastered. The fourth and final step in the system begins with letter M, and that stands for mindfulness.
Hmm.
When you're asked a question, you have to be mindful. Be mindful of your own feelings. Be mindful of what's going through you, but be mindful also of the question and think about how you're going to answer it. You have to answer that question in such a way as to position you as giving great evidence. You have to answer that question in a consistent way with the other evidence you've been given. You have to answer that question in a way which shows and demonstrates that and displays that your evidence should be valued and preferred above everyone else's. So you have to be mindful of how you do that. And a lot of times people are, because they're worried, they're anxious, they're nervous, they're not feeling confident, they're intimidated, they don't feel they can do it. But if you follow that 4-step process, that 4-step system, you can get the result you want. Not immediately, not tomorrow, but if you follow it and work on it over even a matter of weeks or months, you will get the same results that I've been able to get. So, and when is the best time to do this for any of us, any one of us? Well, the best time was yesterday. The next best time is right now, because when you go to court, when you're in that witness box, it's too late, far too late. You can't pick up these four these 4 bits of the system. They take time to practice and master. They take time, so you have to do it well before you go into court. Yeah. Because just want to remind you that when you get in that witness box, you are on your own. No one's there for you. So you have to do it now.
Sure.
So to get that, to get the best out of the system, which is what I was speaking to you about earlier, to get the best out of the system, you have to master those 4 bits of the system. And they all tie in together. Be calm, links with having a great attitude. To have a great attitude, you have to be able to listen and understand and be reflective. And you have to be mindful of how you respond and what you do and how you're feeling, how other people are feeling. And you have to master all those 4 different parts, elements of the system. And that
Absolutely.
takes time.
And also, what I want to add, Michael, what I said to you earlier is usually when we go to court, usually it is because of a traumatizing event. So
Yeah,
you're blurry, like if I look at my life as well, there were moments where you're so traumatized, you're sucker punched by life. And to think you have to sit in that stand, it's daunting for any person, but being like a wide open wound, even more to be
yeah,
there, like you say, to feel scrutinized. And also, I would say, because it's almost you have to remove the emotion from the situation, which is extremely hard when you go through, where you're still in it. So my next question to you would be for our listeners now, tuning in that is going through a very tough time. The timing of going to court, is there any like timelines you could give them or any way for them to prepare in terms of what you just said about being calm before they enter the court even?
You've got to the four step system I just told you. You can't. You've got to do that well in advance. You've got to start working on it now.
Okay.
If you're going to go to court, maybe you're going to court in a month's time, or 2 months' time, or so, but you have to work on it now. You have to be serene. You start with learning how to be calm. You have to have the ability to calm yourself down. When I used to go to court a lot all the time, what I was doing was mentally and emotionally inside myself, forgetting what else is all around you. You have to have that ability to calm yourself down, block out the other things,
Mm.
because nothing is as important as what's going on inside you and what's going up here and in here. And
Yes.
you have to master that.
Wow.
So learning, I mean, there are different techniques you can use to learn to master your your feelings and emotions, but you have to learn and you have to take time, and it takes practice. For
Okay.
most of us, we are affected by everything else around us. We don't recognize that what's going on inside us is much more powerful and much more relevant. But we have to learn that, and that's a learned skill.
And also, if you think of you've got like one shot, like I mentioned to you with my divorce, you sign papers and that's that. You only have one shot, and almost to be more educated on, and you actually make better choices when you are calm, with
Yeah,
the 4 steps. You make much better choices if you're not emotional. While,
yeah,
signing stuff, well, you are like, I just want to get away from this. You have
yeah,
to take a deep breath. You have to master, like you say, yourself, no matter how hard it is, but
yeah.
give yourself that pause even.
You do. I mean, I would say that everyone's different, but my view, when you're giving evidence, there's nothing wrong with having a degree of emotion when you're doing it. Because sometimes you're going to speak, you
Yes.
can speak, you might have to be more emphatic, or you might have to put more emphasis here or whatever, depending on what it is. There's nothing wrong with that, but you have to maintain your calm, your control over it. There's nothing wrong with emotion. It's how you use it, and is it taken over? Do you allow it to take over? You don't allow it to take over. Yeah, you
Yes.
use it. You speak more forcefully about certain things and less forcefully about other things, depending on what you're asked, what is asked of you, and that's how you use it. But you have to be in control of yourself. Why do? If you were giving evidence and you were like a robot and you speak in a monotone voice, it's not going to come over very well.
Mm.
Doesn't
Yes.
come over very well. So be yourself, be who you are, but be in control of your emotions, and use your emotions appropriately. Yeah, at relevant times.
Amazing. And I do want to ask you, Michael, your book that you have written, how can people get it? Is it on
Yes,
Amazon? Where
it's
is
on
it?
it's on Amazon. The book is titled Family Court,
Amazing.
giving Family Court colon then giving evidence in the family court by Michael Watson. Um, yes, it's £19.99, I think, but I think it's far more valuable than the monetary value. I'm so pleased to have written that book, because that book came with about 6 years before I wrote it. I didn't think I could write that book,
Yeah.
but when I did, it was just waiting to be written, really. And yeah, I'm very proud of that book.
Oh, it's incredible. And the feedback that you've been receiving must be wonderful because you're basically empowering people from around the world with tips that we usually don't have. I mean, where do you get tips like this?
Well, I mean, I'm glad for the reviews are great. I mean, but you know what? If any of your audience get my book and you read it and you think it's great, please give me a review on Amazon. Please,
We will
please give me a review on
definitely.
Amazon because
And I
I
think
want lots of reviews.
it's incredible, Michael. I personally, years ago, studied youth work, but it was a combination of social workers with youth
Yeah,
workers. So I've got incredible respect for what you do with, and also I know how hard it is. I really, that's why I become quite emotional because I do know it's a very brave, courageous line of work, and I do think extremely underestimated and undervalued
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
in the
definitely.
world. It's very brave, and what you have to basically also deal with, absorb, and it's hard stuff. And there's no way, you could save people. Like what happened to the little girl. It's tragic, but you're there still to basically live her legacy. So I do want to honor you in this incredible story, and I do think she knew she was loved and cared for, even though you couldn't physically help her on that stage.
Yeah, I think that there's so much. We as people, as human beings, there's so much we have to learn about. You know, I did a poll on LinkedIn, and lots of people still think that because you're a social worker, you must be able to save them. It doesn't work that way.
I just wanted to
It's not
say
as
there's
simple
no
as that.
way. There's no way. Like I become very emotional now as well because I know, I had my own nonprofit for many years. So I do know the brutalities of poverty and all the things that you get to do with on a daily basis. And there's no way you can save everyone. You want to, but there's no way you as a person. So that's why I love the book that you wrote, because through this, you can actually reach more people to stand
Yeah,
up and help themselves in a
yeah,
beautiful way.
yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I can look back now and see what I didn't do right. I can look back
Yes.
now and see the red flags, but at the time I couldn't.
There's no way.
And
Yes.
you there's also the reality is we're working with humans, and in the UK, and I don't know the thing around the world. In the UK, at least one child dies per week. At least one child dies per week at the hands of family members or a stepfather or stepmother or whatever per week.
Yeah.
And that statistic that hits me because what that really says is that we live in a society where our parents are killing their children.
Yes.
And what the society often wants to do is turn that in because they don't want to face that. They don't want to face that they are killing their children or people that they know or their family or their friends or their neighbors are killing people. What they want to do is turn it in and make it look, oh, social workers should have done this. It's a
Yes.
social worker's fault.
Yes.
And that's not me trying to get out of a responsibility. That's me looking at the reality. I didn't kill that little girl.
Um,
Any social worker who's been unfortunate enough or whatever situation to have had a child die, they didn't kill that child. What society should really be looking at is why is it so why is society in such a way that people are killing their children? What's going on in society?
yes.
What's allowing this happening? And rather than having a go at social workers who are doing a really difficult job under really difficult circumstances and who people don't like and love to hate, etc., they should
Yes.
be looking at society and trying to think. They should look at themselves first and think, well, how can I make it better? Because I think lots of things. What happens is we don't take our responsibility. We want to look around for who can we blame, because that's what we learn.
Exactly.
We learn that from governments. We
Exactly.
learn it from politicians. We learn it from other people. We learn that all the time.
I agree with you. I actually had the same conversation with my son yesterday. This whole chapter of Liam Payne, and everything that's happened with him in the music industry, etc., etc. And I said to him, in so many words, at the end of the day, all of us make our own choices. We're all in difficult industries. I don't think there's any industry that you can actually look at the industry to look after you.
Yeah.
Even me that's do media house, and if I'm not in a good place, I have to acknowledge that. So I'm not saying, giving fault or anything, but that was the conversation at the home yesterday. And the same with society is, like you say, the court system won't look after us if we don't look after and take responsibility at the end
Yeah.
of the day of our role in all of this.
Yeah. Definitely.
I think that's the the short and the long is I actually have another interview as well where the book's name is No One Is Gonna Save You. And it's
Right.
actually very, very applicable. Yeah. And it is how
Yeah.
can you empower yourself at the end of the day? And also, Michael, so much honor for your story and this little girl, because I always tell my son as well, this will not, that we will find the gold in all of
Yeah.
this. This will not
Yeah.
be in vain. And that's why I'm
Yes.
just so inspired by what you do after what happened, because you could have decided to leave the social work industry altogether. And it sounds like
Yeah.
you contemplated.
Yeah. I definitely can't. I don't know. I'll be honest with you, I don't know what made me stay. I
Uh,
don't know what made me stay.
that's
And I
incredible.
like to look back. I know why I started social work. I know what happened to what was going on in my childhood, which things that happened in my childhood made me want to do social work. I think. I know. I'm sure of that. But I don't know why I stayed.
I'm so glad you did.
It feels easier to have gone. Even
Yes.
to this day, it feels easier to have gone. But
Much easier. I mean, if it was easy, everyone would do it, if we make the brave choices. So I'm so glad you made the brave choice to stay.
I think and maybe it was anger
Mm.
because I really thought, how dare they do that to me? I
Yes,
really did. I really, part of me inside was thought, if I let through what I really felt, I would probably do something. I'd probably be in prison because it was that bad. I really think to myself, they shouldn't do that to anyone. But that
yes,
is what they do. And if they get a
unfortunately.
chance, I mean, fortunately, not, they're not, a lot of our people aren't in a situation where the child's been killed. But courts, they don't, they don't think about, because they just want to get to the thing and they want to make that decision about what should happen, blah blah. That's it. On to the next one. They do not consider how traumatizing
Yes,
that what they do, how that impacts on people. And I realize now, again, I mean, it's this is 30 plus 30 years ago. Why am I crying? Because it's things I still haven't let out fully.
yes.
I still haven't fully let out all those feelings.
Exactly. And that's why I say it is war. It is like
Yeah.
you went through a war. And I do think, sometimes things happen that you won't really fully process. If I still talk about my divorce, for example, how many years later, I still feel the emotion sometimes. It's not as if it didn't happen. It happened and it changed your life forever. So I
Yeah,
do
yeah, definitely.
think, the emotions is good with it, Michael, and you cry for the little girl. I think, there's some things in our lives that we will always cry for, which is actually incredible of you as a human.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's this is just part of it's part of life. But I really, as I say, I can't save the little girl, but I can help
Yeah.
and save and protect. And a lot of people, and it reminds me, because when I wrote the book, I was also thinking that if you're out in the street and someone attacks you, if you know self defense or you know karate or you're I don't know, you're able to physically defend yourself fine. If you can't, maybe you'll run and hide, or maybe you'll go and seek the police or something. You'll do something, but you know what to do.
Yes.
You know how to handle it. When you're in the court, you're in a different environment. You're in an alien environment. You don't know what to do. You don't know how to handle it. You don't know how to protect yourself. I wrote that book so that people can begin to protect themselves. people can begin to protect themselves from all the things that can happen at court. And although that's about the family court, when you're given evidence, the things, the main themes, the main learning points are the same across every, it might be criminal court, it might be something else, whatever it is. How you manage being cross-examined, how you answer questions, how you deal with it, how you manage yourself, and cope with everything is the same. It's the same process. And so really it could be across the board for anything when at court. But also I recognize that, and it's as a result of doing this and doing public speaking, which I'm still new at, that actually that skill of what I've learned from actually giving evidence under really difficult circumstances, I can help people. It places me in a position where anyone who's going through difficult circumstances, not necessarily court, it's the same sort of skill you need to develop, you know. And
Definitely.
for me, I suppose I realized that I got to a position that was so painful that I had to take charge of it in some way. And we all have to take charge of our painful experiences. Otherwise, you're always going to be in pain all the time. So it's it's recognizing or pulling together the things of you that have pulled you apart, that you have to put back together in some way to make sure that you are stable enough, um, secure enough, confident enough to survive. And you don't just want to survive, you damn well deserve to thrive.
Love
Yeah.
it.
So
Love it.
that's it, really.
That is incredible, Michael. And I love what you say, putting that pieces together that pulled you apart. I absolutely love it. And if anyone wants to reach out to you, as possible public speaking or want to just reach out to you, how can they find you online?
Right, they can find me online. I'm on LinkedIn, um, Michael Watson, Incredible Witness newsletter. They can get me the Incredible Witness newsletter. They can get me on Instagram, Michael240656. Michael240656. They can get me on Facebook as Michael Watson. Yeah, those are the main ways they can get. And I will also give you my number, my mobile number, because you don't know when people might need you at a different time. We don't always have people around us that can support us. It depends what's going on. So it's +44 7960 077 063.
That's incredible. And I will also post all your links as well as your number and everything in the comments. And just thank you so much, Michael. I do hope you'll be back to visit me again. And
Listen,
it
I'll
was
come back
such a
whenever you want.
value packed session. I just
Yeah.
can't thank you enough for being courageous, for being a warrior. And what I'm even thinking is definitely, for my friends out there that is social workers, maybe we can create like a workshop online or something,
Yeah,
because
definitely.
I do think we learn so much from each other, and it would be great to connect you with them as well.
Yeah. What I should say before I forget is I do have a podcast, but I've put it on hold for a little while because I need my audience to be higher, which is why I've taken up public speaking,
Okay,
so that
fantastic.
I, my visibility could be higher, really. And my podcast is called the Incredible Witness Podcast, which is
Love it.
available on Spotify and Apple. Okay. So I will start that soon also.
Perfect.
And I'd love to come back and speak on your show again, because yes, you're right. There's so many other things.
There
Um,
is. There
yeah,
really is. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. I do think it's like a whole basically world we have to almost explore, because it's like the mindset, it's practical tips. There's so
yeah,
much. So please come and visit me again. Thank you so
definitely.
much, Michael. And for all of you tuning in today, thank you so much for being here. This is why we have this incredible series for incredible people like Michael, that basically use their pain for purpose to help others and inspire others. Thank you so much for tuning in. Keep on writing and keep on shining.
Thank you, Magriet. And thank you for your audience and listeners. Thank you so
Such
much
a
for having me.
pleasure.
Just watch me shine.